Welcome back to the garden. I'm going to show you two things today. I'm going to show you how to use the hose end sprayer that I showed you in the insecticide movie the other day, and tell you about a couple different ones. And with it, we're going to put out some Sevin spray to kill the grasshoppers that I got around my place. So let's talk about the sprayer first. This is usually what I use for insecticides because I can spray big plants with it with just a hose hooked to it. Or I can spray a large area in just a few minutes. A couple of the features that it has: this does not push water in with the chemical and out. When you pull the trigger, depending on where you got this dial set between teaspoons or tablespoons, it draws the appropriate amount out and mixes it with the water as it disperses it. With this tip, you can turn it where it makes it fan. You can take it off, shoot a straight stream, or you can turn it where it fans down. Now, another nifty feature of this is it measures in teaspoons, but right here on the top, if you look, is a little ferrule. You can pull this hose out and this unscrews. You can plug this into this, stick it back in, and that converts you to teaspoons. I think I said this was teaspoons a while ago, but it's tablespoons when that ferrule ain't in that. What you do is you figure out what your ounce mix ratio is and convert that to teaspoons or tablespoons. Pour your chemical into the bottle, put the lid back on it, hook it up to your water hose, and you're ready to go. So, let's see what we need to mix. According to the label on this Sevin is good for multiple uses. We're using it today for grasshoppers and crickets, but it does all kind of stuff: vegetables, ornamentals, fruits, berries. Good broad spectrum insecticide. So it tells us here, for what we're trying to kill and most other applications, that we need about 4 ounces per gallon of water. So if we know we need 4 ounces of product per gallon, there's 2 tablespoons to an ounce. That means we need 8 tablespoons to get our 4 ounces ratio per gallon. So we're gonna not use this ferrule, and we're gonna leave it set to the tablespoon. If you look on one side of these sprayers, it'll tell you where the lineup mark is, and it's got little arrows. We're gonna set that between the 7 and 10, a little more than halfway. There's little notches you can count that tells you. So we're set on 8 tablespoons per gallon. So that should put us out of the ratio of 4 ounces to a gallon as we're spraying this. So I'm gonna put the chemical in it. We'll hook it up to the hose, and I'll walk you over and I'll show you how I put it out. We're gonna put it on a bunch of different stuff, some beds and on the ground and on some plants. Sevin is relatively safe, so not a whole lot of worries. You can look to pay for a good one like this, and there's several different name brands. It's all the same one. You can look to pay between $25 and $35 for one. But let me tell you, I've used the alternative, and they just don't hold up, and they don't meter right. So if you're gonna buy one of these, and I do suggest you do, you can do a lot of area in a hurry, which you fix and see. But buy a good one and rinse it out every time. I'll try to remember to show you how at the end, but just in case I forget, I dump my chemical back into my jug when I'm done, because there's no water ever touches the chemical in here. It draws this out of it on a good quality one like this. And number 2, rinse it out, then fill it back up with water, and then set your setting on the highest and stand there and spray it until this is empty, and then put it up, and it'll last you. I've had this one. I bought this even before I got into vegetable or gardening plants, before I got into flyers, when I used to have a vegetable garden. I probably had this sprayer 10 or 15 years. We're gonna pour it up in there. And you didn't see it because I was off camera, but I always like to shake my chemicals. You never know how long it's been sitting in storage or whatever before it's sold. These good quality ones too have a good metal screen on it. If you drop stuff as much as I do, you'll probably appreciate that. Now, you probably should wear gloves with this. As I told you earlier, we're spraying Sevin for crickets. Sevin is relatively safe. It's important that you read your directions, because there are some insecticides that's not safe for certain plants. Some products need to be sprayed below certain temperatures. So it's important that you read that. Some need to not be sprayed when they're blooming. All that factors in. So whatever you're spraying, you're pretty safe. You need to make sure you're safe by reading them directions. Sevin is relatively, they changed the chemical. It used to be carbol. It's something a little different now, but it's still relatively safe. Now this area, from what you can see, is all covered in different things. So to get in there and throw a granular, you're gonna get some stuff, but not everything. With this hose end sprayer, that's what I like about them. Look how much area you're covering. And you're getting a good drench and a good cover. Unlike a tank sprayer, you couldn't cover that much area that quick and get the same cover. I always like to at least get outside my beds too. Now, I actually use this on my whole yard as I go. But if you don't choose not to use it on your whole yard, you do need to put it outside your bed a good distance. Try to get them that's running from it. Now, I have a worse problem with crickets because I don't change out my mulch. So they hatch out every year, but that's okay. I don't mind getting a little spray and putting out. And if you see here after setup, we've already covered a spot here probably 18 to 20 foot long and probably 10 to 12 foot wide. It's wider than that in just a few seconds. So as long as you got enough hose, you can move right on along. We got them on the move. They're jumping everywhere, so we kill them. And as you can see there, I'm probably spraying out there 12, 15 feet at least, if not further. And I can see, you probably can't see them, but I can see the grasshoppers are dying and jumping. This is a great product. Now, unlike you seen a while ago when I was spraying this and I was standing there talking, that's the wrong way to spray. I got sidetracked. You need to be moving. You don't need to be standing there because you're putting out a lot and you put out too much of something and kill your plant. So you need to be moving when you spray. So I'm gonna show you one last thing here. I told you I also use this on my lawn. When you're fighting ants and things like that, and different things in the yard, you tend to go out and buy the bait so they'll carry it back to the mound. Rather expensive. If you're willing to invest a little money in some extra water hose and into one of these hose end sprayers, you won't have that problem because you can buy that 32-ounce bottle of chemical I just showed you for about, depending on where you buy it, $15 to $25. It's really affordable. That'll do the common yard 3 or 4 times. The spot we're fixing to do here is probably anywhere from 40 to 50 foot wide and at least about the same length. Just let these yahoos get by so we can hear. So watch how fast I can do this area that you're looking at here. And it's just that effective. And you're not just treating a mound where they're moving 30, 40 foot. You're putting something out there that's gonna cover the whole ground. Much more maximum effectiveness. There you go. I generally do this about once a year for the crickets and grasshoppers when they hatch out. And then I'll do it about one more time, about 3/4 of the way through the year for ants again. Other than that, it pretty much takes care of it. So pretty simple. Hope that'll help you. It sure helps me, and it's not just for gardens and vegetables. I mean, your lawn, you put that out there and you do you around your house with that, you can do it in no time by dragging a water hose. And you have put out some maximum effectiveness. You hadn't treated hills and spots, heavy traffic areas. You've treated everything. There's nowhere for them to run. So there's a little more to fleas than that. There's a life cycle, but anyhow. You just keep walking while you're spraying it out there. You can see that pattern that it's putting out. And you can also see that your chemical's dropping in your bottle. It tells you that you're getting the disbursement that you should be getting. You can see how fast you're able to move. The large areas just aren't a problem. Now a tank sprayer will work for this. Now, how long you reckon you'd have been right there with a tank sprayer? And we done covered, slammed down there. So with that one $15 to $20 quarter Sevin, and in about a 30-minute time frame, we've done a spot wider than what you can actually see here, and all the way to that other tree line. I would say it's probably 330 foot long. Hey cat, quit messing with that now. Over here, I'll pet you in a minute. And probably 125 foot wide we did with one of these bottles. And we did it in 30 minutes. Now, in saying that, I got a $35 investment in that sprayer. And probably over the years, I've brought $300 to $400 worth of water hose. Here's a word of advice. If you're just getting into plants, you probably haven't crossed that threshold yet of whether you want to actually be able to put in an irrigation system or not. So, once you get to that point, if you stay with it, you're going to want an irrigation system. And with that irrigation system, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to think ahead a little bit and put a little extra money with it. And at the same time you dig your hole, you want to put some water supplies in your throughout your yard. Some of you may have small yards, some of you may have big yards. Good rule of thumb, I think, you don't never want to have to drag more than a 50-foot water hose to do anything. So I would say from anywhere in your yard, when you drop in your irrigation, run a separate line and put a water hose spigot in somewhere, even if you want to hide them or blend them in. But where you got one within 50 foot of anywhere you're standing by one, and that'll help. And then you won't need all them water hoses. You can have a 50-foot water hose wound up somewhere that just blends right in on a nice hanger. When you need it, you know you got a spigot anywhere that you can reach. Little effort while you're putting down your irrigation, or a little more money if you're paying somebody else to, is going to go a long way in convenience and not keeping up with water hoses and dragging water hoses everywhere. Had I had this 30-minute job, I could have done the area you just seen right there in probably 10, 15 minutes. I'd have spent more time unhooking the hose from spigot to spigot than I would have with this, but I had to drag out all my water hoses. So keep that in mind. Appreciate y'all joining me.